Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. Today we're going to be covering this solo overview for Massive Darkness. What does that entail? Well, that is the rules. It basically bridges the gap between the solo setup and then our solo playthrough series. So this is going to give you an idea as to how some of the game works at a high level. We're not going to get really deep into the specific situational type stuff. We're going to talk high level about the rules, the turn sequence, story mode, standard mode, that kind of thing. Kind of give you an idea as to what's going on in this game. And again, you're going to have to explore it on your own to find out even more. The rulebook itself, you can find it online, so it's not something hidden. If you want to grab it, you can find it online through the Kickstarter itself or elsewhere through Simon Games as well. And I advise you to do that because by seeing the rulebook, you get a really good window into what this game is going to be all about. And this is going to be hopefully a video that'll help people that already own the game or those looking to get into it. So let's start essentially with just the end of the setup. So you already saw me in the last video go over all the setup. Again, the only difference now is I have miniatures kind of ready at the ready over here to the left for the playthrough. Besides that, I've also just got some different lighting going on. This game doesn't really work as well as Sword and Sorcery in terms of lighting because, you know, the more I could fire so much light in this game, but it's supposed to be called Massive Darkness for a reason. But we can't completely play in the darkness. I was thinking about actually having tea light candles or something like that for the different torches during the playthrough, but I don't want to start a fire. That would be bad. So what we'll probably do is sometime in the future, I'll look into some really cool stuff to kind of thematically make things look even better. But for now, this spotlighting looks pretty cool in itself, and hopefully everything can be picked up on camera, no problem. So we got the whole thing set up here. The first couple things I want to talk about when you start the playthrough is just your starting equipment. So obviously we talked about this in the setup, but we never actually did it. So you go through this, you're allowed to grab yourself an actual item on your character for your body. So for instance, in the starting equipment deck, there is only the leather armor. I took one for each. It's going to provide us with a die when we do defensive rolls, denoted by the blue 1. It's maybe hard to see the color on that, but that stands for a single blue die. It's going to allow us to do rolls for defense against attacks. I also went ahead for Whisper. Oh, and first off, even before we get into this, I should actually just take a step back and thank you guys for actually getting back to me on all the votes that came in from the Rolling Solo Board Game Guild. I want to thank all you guys because you guys actually chose these characters to send them into this particular playthrough. I know this video doesn't jump into that playthrough. It's more of the rules up front, but I just wanted to thank you in advance for choosing the Wizard and the, I guess, Shadow Assassin type characters. We have two different individuals, Elias and Elias, I have no idea, and Whisper. So I think it's Elias. So Elias and Whisper are going into the dungeon. It's going to be extremely exciting. This is obviously a smaller tutorial level, and if we continue to play any more of these, they'll get a little bigger. But let's jump back into what I was talking about. So essentially, I picked leather armor for Whisper, so you know we'll have that ability, and she's also going to have the longsword, so that's even better too. So we've got a longsword there. Over on Ilias' side, we have the staff. So of course he's a magic user, so it makes sense to give him a staff. He can also get what's called a BAM on his dice, which will give his attacks a +1 sword. Not a bad thing. And then he's got similar leather armor. One thing to note is we're going to play the tutorial in the standard mode, which is the normal mode. Essentially, experience that you gain while killing enemies will always go in this base area here. Now, if you want to extend the experience and do something that kind of slowly builds your character and actually so that you're not moving through your skill tree at an insanely rapid pace, you can play the story mode. And if you play the story mode, you utilize the micro XP track sitting up in the top right of this dashboard. And when you do this, what's really happening, you can even see it with the arrow here, is essentially every time you kill a mob. So if I'm playing standard, which I will be doing during my playthrough, if I killed one of the mob creatures, I may gain a single XP. I'll move it on the base track here for XP, not the micro, because I'm playing standard mode. However, if you're playing story mode, you actually uptick the micro track. This does not move until you've actually fulfilled fully all the way down to 5 XP, and then a base would go ahead and click in, and you'd start this back up at 0. So essentially, for every 5, another one ticks in. That's kind of a way of slowing down how quickly you gain XP, which then correlates to how quickly you're unlocking all of your skills across your characters. If you're playing in standard mode, you unlock these things at a much quicker pace, But if you're playing story mode because you want to play this quest by quest and build your character more of an RPG feel, the micro track is going to slow that down for you, and that's what I really like about it. So again, you can just have a one-time sit down with friends and use this as the standard, play it standard, and unlock crazy amounts of abilities and just go right at it because you only have a limited window of time. And then maybe if you're playing solo and you have all the time in the world, you can sit there and use that micro track, or even with friends still, and just have a slower, more progressionary kind of experience with the game, which I think is really cool. So I'm glad they actually went a way in which it allows for both. That's very smart. So anyway, that's essentially what we went ahead and picked, the leather armor. Again, they give us dice defensive rolls. Now, at the very back of the Massive Darkness Rules and Quest book, there is actually a really, really handy kind of sequence to the whole thing. And this is what I want to walk you through to give you a high-level idea of how these are going to work turn by turn as we go through. So when we start off a game round, you're going to have a player's phase. The first player activates his hero. Now, in my case, I'm going to have Whisper. She's going to go first. So she's going to start with the first player token here, and then after the turn is complete and we move to the next round, then it'll go over to the wizard. So we're going to go ahead and have the first player activate, which will be Whisper. She's going to go ahead and do her actions. She has 3 actions. So if you play games like Zombicide before, similar that way, but different in what you can do. So when each hero has 3 actions to spend during his activation chosen from the following list. Everything in bold is essentially an action. So when you do a movement, and everything, I shouldn't say everything in bold, it's really everything in bold that has a bullet point beside it, is an actual action. The rest are almost like micro actions you can do within. So when you do a movement action, you can choose to spend 2 movement points on, these types of movements. So you can choose to move twice, you can move and open, or you can open and move. It's kind of like an interesting little bit of dynamics there in terms of what you want to do. So it just gives you some options in terms of moving around the dungeon. So again, that would be 1 action. You get 2 movement points to spend as you want between moving and opening doors. You can also pick up things. So you can also take all the tokens in the zone. So you could move, pick up. You could move. You could open a door or pick up. However it ends up working out, depending on what you want to do, you have 2 different move. Spend 2 points with the move action to choose one of these 3 options, I should say. All right, and then we move down to the next completely different action, which is combat. Straight up combat is magic, melee, or ranged. And this is going to be a handy little kind of cheat right here to know what your range is for your stuff. Obviously, melee is in the same area as you. So for me right now, the tile ends with this line. So everything within this tile right here, this square, is within range 0. So whenever I do melee attacks, I'm fine as long as the enemy's inside of this tile. And then in terms of ranged attacks, so here's an example. Longsword is a melee weapon. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead, and I know that because a die is showing in the sword location, whereas this is ranged and this is magic. So there's no die in there. You don't get any, and you can't use it for that style of attack. So this is a melee weapon. You come over here and it'll tell you it's a magic weapon, meaning that I have to follow magic range rules. And if I came over here and used a magic attack, it'd be range 1 or 2 away, meaning I could actually not attack anyone in my current tile. I'd have to attack someone either 1 away or 2 away. And of course, the only way I could attack 2 away is if the door was open. Otherwise, I would be stuck at here. Like I'd be stuck only 1 away. So, and of course, I can't shoot sideways through, a crossed angle. You can't shoot diagonally. Everything has to be orthogonally that way. So that's kind of that. So that's good. What else have we got here? We got the reorganize and trade. Very, very similar to Zombicide. Again, once you use that action, you can trade with all heroes in the zone, and it's like you can rearrange anything in your tray, as well as trade things with the other player unlimited amounts of times back and forth. That action just activates the ability to do so. You can also do something called Get Up. The hero recovers from a stun effect. So sometimes the monsters are going to hit you so hard you're going to be falling over, and we're going to want to use a Get Up action in order to get up off the ground in order to continue. Now that kind of sucks because you end up essentially losing an action just to get up off the ground, but that's the penalty you get for getting stunned. You can also choose to do nothing, which means all your remaining actions are lost. The following can be performed without spending any actions. So that's separate. So the do nothing is just simply doing nothing. You can totally choose to do nothing. You may run out of options in a certain situation, you may not want to do anything. That's fine. You don't have to. The other really interesting thing you can do, it says the following can be performed without spending any actions. So these are like the free actions, and maybe that's what they should have said in this section. It's one, and this is a really interesting game mechanic for Massive Darkness, and probably one that gives it the most Diablo-ish type style to its loot, and that is the transmutability. It says you can discard 3 equipment cards and draw 1 level higher than the lowest of them. So for instance, if I had 3 level 1 treasure cards sitting in my hand because I looted a bunch of treasure chests and there was 3 of them in here, if I traded in those 3 using a transmute action, I discard those 3 equipment cards, I don't see them again, I draw 1 level higher than the lowest of them. So out of the pile of 3, the lowest of them, well, they were all 1. So then I'd be drawing from the second treasure deck tile, meaning you can almost essentially merge really poor and unused loot to actually get better equipment, which is really cool. So the other thing that comes into play with that is if you're discarding something like a 1, a 2, and a 3, then that would mean if you're discarding those 3 cards, like 1 from each deck, and you have to have those in your pile, if you were discarding all those as a group to do a transmute because they're all terrible and you didn't want to use any of them, you'd end up having to use the worst of all of them, so the treasure 1, and you get a plus on that. So you'd be drawing from the second deck, if that makes sense. So essentially, it's obviously better to transmute with higher level equipment or equal level equipment to guarantee that you get the next level up, which is in terms of loot. So that's always a good thing. And well, you'll see that in action quite a bit in the tutorial, so you'll understand it further. The other thing is signature. So your signature move or action essentially is you spending an experience point, which is just spending one of these. You actually don't just always gain, you can actually burn experience points in order to execute an action. And if you go ahead and do so, you're talking essentially about your signature action right here. And it even says signature XP, spend 1 XP and make a free movement. So if you need it, it's there. That's Whisper's ability. She's got that. And then we've got the wizard who can spend it to attack or on attack or defense. He can turn the gem into a +2 on BAM, which is that's pretty good. And that may end up helping him with potentially, like for instance, if he has weapons that use the BAM symbol, that could be an automatic damage or something like that. But again, he needs to have a weapon that really does something with that. You can see. So anyway, we'll get into that when we get some more items and stuff. It'll make more sense. But that's essentially the player's phase. Then we move to the enemy's phase. Now, again, this stuff is not separate. It's kind of like Sword and Sorcery, and I don't even want to compare them because they're not the same game. But what they've done in this one is really, again, you go ahead, you activate your first hero, you do your 3 actions, and at the very, very bottom here, it says, if you, at the end of your activation, all surviving enemies, the hero attacks. So if you chose to do a combat action as one of your 3 actions, at least one of your 3 actions, whichever one or whichever enemies you ended up, and if you spent 3 combat actions attacking multiple enemies, whichever ones you actually engaged in combat are going, if they're still alive, going to make a counter attack against you. So that's outside of the enemy phase. So it is kind of similar to Sword and Sorcery, what we're playing through in the other one, but a little bit different, not 100% different. But again, it's really whoever you go after is coming back after you if you haven't killed them. Whereas in Sword and Sorcery, it is you pull from the encounter deck and see what the game does. This one's like a direct retaliation. It's almost like you smack him, he gets mad, he's going to throw a punch back at you. And that's kind of how it works. And honestly, thematically, it makes sense. If you try to hit somebody and you do or don't, they're going to be mad if they're still alive. So that's essentially what the counterattack is. Then once all of that stuff is resolved, of course, that would be one player's turn. Then you move over here, do the wizard's turn, go through the same situation. If the wizard happens to attack anybody, whoever's still alive would attack him back. And then you go to the enemy's phase. This is when you don't have control, and really the enemies are in control. And it says all enemies on the board are activated. So whatever's left at that point just activates. And then when that happens, there's a couple steps that you go through. So you perform the following steps. Try to attack a hero. So the first thing they're going to do is if they're within range or within your current square or whatever, depending on the weapons they have, they're just going to try to attack you. If they can, great. They're going to attack you. It'll be your worst day. If they can't do that, if they're unable to, they continue to step 2, which is move 1 zone towards their target. So they're just going to come closer to you. Then they're going to try to, and they're going to try to attack a hero again. And if they're unable to, they continue to step forward, which is move 1 zone to their target. So it becomes kind of a range game. It becomes kind of a strategically placing yourself in a spot in which you know that they're always going to be doing this whole thing of attack, move, and attack, move. Meaning, if you're far enough away from them, the last thing they'll do is move. So you can, in other words, you can, if they were here and you were here, they were activating and they didn't have ranged attacks, they were trying to hit you melee, they would try to attack. There's nobody in here, so they can't do it, so they'd move. Then they'd try to attack, but nobody's in there, then they'd move. But then at that point, that's it. That's all they get. So it can kind of be a little bit of a game strategically to put yourself in a position distance-wise from the enemy so that when they activate, they may get to you, but they don't even have enough. They've already used up all of this kind of step 1 through 4, and they can't attack you at that point. So that you can use to your advantage. In terms of target priority, this is how they break it down. So how they focus on who they're going to attack. So they're going to attack the hero in range with the most XP. Range in this game is very different than like Black Plague and Zombicide in terms of if I was here and I cracked a door here, for instance, trying to think of a really good example actually. I guess this is kind of a bad tile to do this on. But essentially in Black Plague and Zombicide, let's say hypothetically we had another tile just like this room right here. So it was too deep in. If this door is cracked, it doesn't matter how many deep into the room you go in terms of line of sight, as long as you can draw, like as long as you can orthogonally make a line of sight and there's nothing blocking walls or doors, and you can see it, you can shoot it, as long as, again, your range is taken into account and stuff. But in terms of the enemy AI, they don't really care. They're just going to say, if there's a hero in range with the most XP, that's who they're coming after. So again, that's going to be their first thing. So if they're within range and you have high XP, that's who they're targeting. If that doesn't apply, then it's hero in line of sight with the most XP. And that's kind of what we were just talking about. The range is different because hero in range is more so talking about the enemy's weapons versus you, like coming after you. And then of course the hero in line of sight is more so what they can see and stuff like that. In terms of depth, Zombicide, the only reason I mentioned that is because Zombicide only allows you to see one deep into a room. If there was another room inside of this building here that was over here, you couldn't shoot into this area or whatever, but that's very, very different than what we're talking about, so I don't want to confuse things. So hero in line of sight with most XP is the second thing. If that doesn't apply or can't be done, or to figure out target priority, then you move to hero in light zone with the most XP. So again, there's an advantage at that point of the targeting priority that if you happen to be in a dark spot and stuff like this, then you're much safer. In other words, darkness is your friend in this game. You want to try to be in dark areas typically when there's enemies on the board, unless you're trying to confront them, but dark areas will avoid you being a target as long as you're far enough away from them. And then the other one says starting zone. You might wonder, why the heck would they say starting zone is a target? Well, how that works is, let's say hypothetically we had this guy here in this room, and we also had this guy right here. Let's say he had gotten into this room and he was in the dark area here. What would happen is if there was a monster roaming this corridor right here and it was here, it would be trying to find somebody in range, and it can't. Then it would look for line of sight and it wouldn't be able to find anybody. And then it would be hero in a light zone. Oh, well, there's nobody because everyone's hiding in the darkness. If you happen to be here, then you're in trouble because it's almost like he can hear you, or maybe not hear you, but apparently light is dangerous. Whereas if you're in the darkness, he'll just continue to move to the start zone. So basically, if this was a monster, he's going to continue to roam the hallway, come all the way down here to the start zone. And then if he hits the start zone and he still can't find anyone, he'll just make his way back to the exit. So really all he's doing the entire game long is just roaming the main area. This is the smallest of all the quests. So obviously the roaming portion won't be as big of a deal here because we'll be trying to just kill whatever shows up there. But when you're talking some of the bigger quests in the box that allow 4 to 5, 6 tiles, those roaming monsters will start to roam multiple rooms and span a much bigger distance. So it probably becomes a lot more of a timing thing, like, do you want to be in the light? When do you want to be in the dark? That kind of thing. Whereas in the tutorial here, I think it's just going to be more about exploring, getting a big understanding of just a game mechanic. So we probably won't see too much of me hiding in the dark here. I'll probably be more confrontational as we go through this first one. And if I decide to play a second one with a bigger a bigger quest, then I'll likely start using some shadow tactics more so. We'll see, because if we end up getting a rolling monster in the hallway that's so vicious I can't confront him or be unwise, I may end up having to do some hiding. But that at least helps you understand why the heck there would be a starting zone target priority and what that even means. So that just means essentially he can't see you, or sorry, he's not in range of you, he can't see you, and you're not in a light zone. Then at that point he doesn't know what to do and he just roams. Then the experience phase happens, so you can spend experience points to get new skills. So that's when you can come over here and say, oh, I've accumulated a certain number of experience points. As long as I've gotten up to 5, I think, is the first threshold for each of the first unlocks across your skill chart. Then you can go ahead and do so. If you can't, you can't. Event phasing comes around, so you draw and resolve an event card. Very simplistic. You come to this event deck right here, pull a card, and follow what it says. And then you end the phase. The next player receives the first player token, so this token over here would drop. And then starting the next turn, we'd have our wizard going first. That's essentially it for the whole game round all the way through. And again, it starts over at the beginning. Combat, we already went through the range talk. The really cool thing about this is it also gives you a nice little write-up right here as to how the combat works. So when you're in a combat with an enemy, it says add the attacker's dice with the defender's dice. Be able to perform a roll. Up to 3 dice of each type. Very important. So you'll get certain situations where a monster will say roll 3 red dice already, and then all of a sudden he ends up having a treasure card on him that gives him an extra sword, that gives him 3 more red dice. No, he doesn't get 6 red dice. He gets 3. The max is 3 of any type, anytime. And that's the reason why they mentioned that rule there. The BAM and diamonds are you'll see it when we play through it, but essentially they give enhancements essentially, or defensive enhancements. It depends on the cards themselves, but you can see like an attack rolling a BAM is what they call it. You get a +1 on your sword. So different cards will tell you what they do. There's no need to worry about it until you see it on your card, and then you can use it. So for instance, like Ilias here. Another thing to mention, this shadow mode skill on both of my character cards can only also be used when we're in the shadows. And currently right now, the tile we're on is in the shadows. So that means the shadow mode skill here would be active for my wizard, whereas over here, this one says my shadow mode skill would take away one of the shields when I'm attacking. So that's pretty cool from the enemy. I'll be taking a shield away from the enemy when I attack. So then you move to the second one. We already talked about that just now. Sorry. So BAMs and diamonds, they just advance your attacks. They come off the dice. So you're wondering where they come from. They just simply come from here. You get diamonds on an attack roll, and you can also get BAMs. You can get them on dice. You can get them on defense and attack dice. The next is you add all your hits together. Swords wise, subtract the shields to determine how many wounds the defender suffers. If its health drops to 0, it's killed. Very straightforward. The hero is rewarded with the equipment the enemy had, plus some XP, and there's your reference. So you know what, at the end of the day, this is the best thing to have sitting on the table, just like this. So that as you play through it, you can follow along, because it honestly has every important key information you need. The only other thing you might look up is just some skill stuff. When you start cracking these skill trees, you might need some definitions. There's a glossary in the back of the book to help you with skills, and that's about it. So that's pretty much the solo overview of the rules at a high level. Hopefully this helps you understand. We haven't fully gone over everything, but it just gives you an idea of the turn sequence and order, so when we start playing the game, I don't lose you somewhere in the playthrough. So again, go check out the rulebook yourself. Join in the playthrough with me. I'd love to have you join in. I'd also like to have your feedback as we go through, because if you guys find something I make a mistake on, I'd like to know about it so I can correct it as we go. And I really hope you're as excited as I am to plunge into this dungeon and find out what it's all about and what kind of crazy things we're going to find in here. So until the beginning episode of the solo playthrough series, thanks again for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Keep on rolling solo.